Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Lockwood, and I'm the Stakeholder Coordinator for the BC Centre for Employment Excellence. On behalf of my colleagues at the Centre, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar. Before we begin, please take a moment to answer the poll on your screen. If you are participating with a colleague or in a group, please select the most appropriate or common answer. We will close the poll in a few minutes or so and let you know the results. For those of you who are not familiar with the Centre, or CFEE, it was created in 2012 with funding from the provincial and federal governments to act as a research and knowledge sharing organization for BC employment service providers and employers. The Centre's mandate is not only to do innovative research, but also to find ways to share that knowledge and best practices with BC practitioners and employers. We created this webinar series as a way to reach out and connect with practitioners. Through the series, we have been highlighting new research by the Centre, but are also tapping into the knowledge and expertise within the employment services community. You are invited to view the video recordings of previous webinars that we have posted on our website. Today's webinar showcases two initiatives to support internationally trained workers: the Foreign Credential Recognition Loans Pilot Project and the Active Career Advancement Pilot Project. In the first presentation, Dr. Louise Legault and Julie Rodier of the Social Research and Demonstration Corporation, or SRDC, will provide an overview of findings 3 years into the project, with a focus on lessons learned and best practices. In the second presentation, Michael Lamb of S.U.C.C.E.S.S will present an overview of Active Career Advancement Project, or ACAP, S.U.C.C.E.S.S national pilot project funded by the Government of Canada. And I've just realized that I somehow mistakenly have left off Louise's bio. So I'll go into Julie's bio here. Julie has been conducting applied social research and program evaluation with SRDC since 2011. And she's collaborated on many projects on a variety of topics, such as education, linguistic minorities, immigration, and adult learning. Julie plays a key role in evaluation of the Foreign Credential Recognition Loans Pilot Project. She is responsible for liaising with the pilot sites as well as collecting and analyzing data. Julie holds a diploma in public policy and program evaluation from Carleton University. And at S.U.C.C.E.S.S, Michael Lamb holds bachelor and master's degrees in public education, in public administration and certified career development practitioner qualifications, having earned credentials in the employment services and vocational training field in 1990. Working as the program director of employment services at S.U.C.C.E.S.S, which is one of the largest immigrant serving agencies located in Vancouver, Michael strongly advocates labor market-driven employment services and training programs in both funded and cost recovery models. Michael works closely with the federal as well as the provincial governments to address skill shortage issues in Canada, and also represents S.U.C.C.E.S.S in various boards and committees. And back to Louise. Dr. Louise Legault has been conducting applied social research with SRDC since 2006. Louise has led or collaborated in numerous policy-relevant evaluation and research projects, such as education, linguistic minorities, youth crime prevention, and immigration. Louise is currently managing the evaluation of the Foreign Credential Recognition Pilot Project, and she has a total of 20 years of experience related to evaluation, research, and consultation services. Louise holds a PhD in experimental psychology and a Bachelor of Science in Sociology from the University of Ottawa. Now, before I turn it over to Louise and Julie, we'll take a look at the poll results here. So the question we asked was approximately what percentage of clients that you work with or that you support are internationally trained workers. So I'm not sure if Louise and Julie and Michael, you can see the results on your screen, but we've got quite a spectrum of answers here. 27% say less than 25%. 23% are saying between a quarter and a half of the clients they work with. 8% are saying between 51 and 75%. And then 31%, so the most common answer is more than 75% of clients they support are internationally trained workers. And then 12% are not practitioners. Okay, and so I should also know that the presentation will last approximately 45 minutes. After the first presentation, we will pause for a moment to address any questions specific to Louise and Julie's presentation on FCR. And after Michael's presentation, we will have time for more Q&A. At any time during the presentation, please use the questions feature on your dashboards to submit any questions or comments you may have for the presenters to address during the discussion period, which will be facilitated by my colleague Sean. And now it is my pleasure to hand over the mic to Louise and Julie in Ottawa.
So hello everybody, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
Louise, thanks, we can hear you.
I can be heard. Okay, thank you. Julie and I are very happy to be here this afternoon, or at least in the east part of the country, to present the findings of this exciting project, the Foreign Credential Recognition Loans Pilot Project. We've just finished analyzing and submitting to the funder Employment and Social Development, Ministry of Social, Employment and Social Development Canada, our latest findings. So it's this is really fresh off the press. Julie, if you can go to the next, yeah. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what how we're going to go about presenting those findings. We're going to talk a little bit about the FCR pilot project, what the program looks like, the program that is being piloted still, the models that were being tested, and the common features of those microloan programs or models that are being tested. And like Greg mentioned, the greatest part of the focus will be on year 2 implementation research findings and outcome research findings. And then we wanted to present 2 or 3 take-home messages from these findings. So what is the FCR pilot project? It's one of the Government of Canada's response to help internationally trained workers complete the assessment and recognition of their foreign credentials and eventually enter the labor market in skill commensurate jobs. The program in a nutshell provides eligible ITWs or internationally trained workers with microloans to help them pay for credentialing activities and living expenses. And that's a new one. It's I know student loans can pay a lot for living expenses, but normally loans that you would get from financial institutions do not cover those expenses. It's being currently implemented in 9 provinces across Canada by community organizations that are experienced working with ITWs, and those 9 provinces are, we'll come to that in the next slide, sorry. The rationale for this project is really to help reduce the market failure. A lot of ITWs come here in Canada. They find it very frustrating that they're not able to find jobs that are commensurate to their skills, education, experience. They also find it very frustrating that they can't borrow from the financial institutions, in great part because they do not have a credit history. Now, the screening process that is used in this program uses character-based, it's mostly character-based screening, as well as some financial screening. We'll get to that a little bit later. But that reduces the asymmetry, or the organizations are there to help people qualify for a microloan and eventually help them repay that microloan. Again, the object is for them to acquire having their foreign credentials recognized. Now, the project, as I mentioned, is implemented in 9 different provinces. It's actually the first project that I work on which is implemented fairly evenly across Canada. Those 9 provinces are British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, and the Atlantic provinces of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI. The other province of Labrador and Newfoundland, the only reason they were not included is just that the ministry ran out of time to recruit them into this project. There are 11 service delivery sites, 2 of which are found in Saskatchewan and 2 in Alberta. So that gives you an overview of where it's happening. The models themselves, there are 2 models. You can cut it different ways, but one of the model that is being piloted is that the case and loan management is done by the funded organization. So it's the same organization that takes care of the cases and sees the clients, sees if they're qualified, as well as manages the loans of those clients. The second model being piloted is a model where there's a partnership between a financial institution and the community organization. So the community organization manages the cases while the loan management is done by a financial institution or is outsourced. The programs and the services delivered are beyond the loan itself. Are loan support, language programs, financial management. There's financial management workshops for those who need them. There's mentoring. There's also a career plan that's very important that is drawn with each client. And there's also information provided in terms of registration and foreign credential assessments. What is the process? Where do you need to go? Et cetera, et cetera. This kind of model that is being tested involves a lot of partnerships with multiple community partners. The organization itself that is funded does not always give all the programs. They usually refer their clients to needed programs out to other community organizations so they can to access those programs. The idea here is to offer a wraparound services for each client. Common microloan program features are that individualized career plan. People are coming in with different credentials, different experiences from different countries, which makes it impossible to have a type of program that fits everybody's needs. The development of the career plan is the first step in that loan process, and it's done by the loan officer, often in consultation with employment counselors, regulatory bodies, and professional associations. As I mentioned earlier, in the absence of a credit history, the loan program or the loan officer looks at the character of the person, the client in front of them. They'll often ask for references, maybe of a current homeowner to which the person is renting an apartment. They'll see if the person is really integrated into the community, as part of a community. The whole idea here is to see in that person the motivation to follow through with the credentialing process, as well as making sure that that person has the support they need in terms of community-based supports. The career plan itself highlights the credentials, the skills and competencies of this person, the possibilities in terms of upgrading and recognition of the foreign credentials, and future employment possibilities. Loan officers are called upon to discuss and work this through with each and every client. The other feature of this piloted program is the flexible repayment terms. So someone who is all of a sudden finds himself out of employment can go back to the case officer and work out a new strategy to pay back the loan. Most loans are paid after a certain amount of time, not immediately, but after a certain amount of time. And most often it's after the person has gone a ways into the credentialing process, or sometimes completed the credentialing process. It depends on the sites. As I mentioned before, there's always additional supports and or services. The loan in itself is not enough, and the sites recognize that, the case officers recognize that, and they work very, very hard to make sure individual needs that arise are met by often referring people to other community organizations. The partnership, again, is very important here for those additional supports and services to be provided. There's a few things there that are mentioned. The character-based lending demands open dialogue between the applicant, the loan program staff, and if applicable, the financial partner. These are our comments. The loan is only one piece of the larger puzzle of services that is going to get them, then being ITWs employed. Those are comments that were provided or shared with us during interviews and focus groups. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the implementation highlights, what we found in year 2 of the implementation study. What we've discovered is that the loan models continue to evolve and develop, and that's normal. It's a pilot, it's developmental in terms of evaluation, and sites continue to adapt and adjust their services in function of their experience. So what we've seen across sites is a downward revision of the target number of loans. With the ministry, there was an understanding that there would be a certain amount of loans in year 2. They realized that those targets are hard to reach, so there was a downward revision of the target number of loans or clients they would serve. There's also a realization across sites that smaller loans spread across the credentialing process is more advantageous for the client. Clients are loaned, the loan itself is usually at a very good rate, but of course the rate, the amount that you need to reimburse depends on the amount of loan. Sites realize that big loans were not necessary up front. It was best to distribute the amounts of loans as needed across the credentialing process. Some sites experience an extension of the geographical reach of the program through e-loans and partnerships with other organizations. Sites also develop guidelines to render more easy the application of a character-based lending and to ensure the fair and efficient process of clients. Again, from experience, they realize some clients need more, others need less support, and some clients are not the ideal, or it's not in their best interest to have these loans. So they operationalize these character-based lending rules. A lot of sites review the operational processes to streamline the loan delivery. This allowed loan advisors or loan officers to make decisions about straightforward cases and building a community of practice without going through the whole process of having a client accepted for a loan. Now, I'll just step back here. Often the loan officers in the first few months, each case would be reviewed by a committee, and the decision would depend on whether a loan or not. They would decide, the committee members would decide if the loan was granted or not. With straightforward cases in year 2, the loan advisors or officers were able to make that decision without resorting to the committee. Procedures were in place to follow up systematically with loan recipients. This, again, it's to provide the support these clients need to remain on target in terms of loan repayments, and to also keep tabs on the credentialing activities and the process they're going through to offer them as needed help and support in terms of emerging needs these clients would feel or find or need. So what has worked Well, and what are the challenges that were found or flagged by the sites? The sites felt that the promotion through word of mouth was the best way to recruit people and clients into the program. They also found that keeping regular contact with partners and clients was crucial so that the program could do what it was supposed to do. They were building also the internal capacity in the delivery of loans, a capacity to keep tabs on the loans, repayments, etc. There are structural aspects of the program that really work well. The flexibility in terms of loan repayment was one of them. And also what worked well was the holistic approach. Again, a loan in itself is not sufficient for these people to eventually have their foreign credentials recognized and find employment in their field. The challenges they met was the increased volume of applications, hence the downward number of loans to be targeted. Challenges are also flagged was the staff turnover, and a very big challenge was the uncertainty as to the future of the program in terms of financial supports. What are some of the successes in year 1 and 2? Well, the clients, a fair percentage of clients finished the credentialing process. They found employment in their fields, and they started repaying their loans. In year 3 of the pilot project, reaching a set target of number of loans was one of the successes flagged by the sites. A great success was having those clients move forward in the credentialing process, the establishment of new partnerships and maintaining established ones, and securing stable funding for the program, and also ensuring minimal write-offs. So those were the successes flagged by the different sites. As of June 30th, 2014 of this year, there were 1,467 loans awarded. That's across the 9 sites, of which 1,320 were unique clients. The average loan value was about $8,932. The total value of loans was $8,932,477, about of which 80% were already dispersed, and the average amount was a little over $6,000. The credentials, when you're looking at credentials and employment, 235 applicants completed their credentialing activities, and 381 found employment in their intended field or in a related field. There were very few withdrawals from the cases, and even more importantly, the delinquency rate and default rate was quite low at 1.4%. That's great. It's testament to the kind of supports that those loan officers and the sites are providing the clients. If I'm looking now at the characteristics of the project participants, as of March 31st, 2014, there were 837 loan recipients. And of those, 48% were women. The average age was 38 years old, and 75% of them were common law or married. Most of them came from the Philippines. They were permanent residents, as well as a fair percentage have been in Canada for less than 5 years. Those were the target clients, or the target population that this program meant to serve. If I go, all right, so pardon my voice, I have a bit of a cold here. So if we go into some of the outcomes of this project in the first 2 years of the implementation, so overall the findings have been positive. However, we have to be careful in saying that the results, these findings are the results of the program only. So the program is associated with improved participation and persistence in the FCR process, and they get through the process quicker and therefore enter more quickly into the labor market. Their improvement in labor status leads to an improvement in
their earnings, which leads to a decline on reliance on government transfers. It also brings about an improvement in their overall confidence and an improvement in other aspects of their life, such as their improved sense of belonging to Canada and to their community. So if we go into more details here on the participation, persistence, and completion of the FCR process, when we asked clients through a survey, what would you have done if you had not received the loan? A majority of loan recipients mentioned that the loan program facilitated their participation and persistence and accelerated their process. So if we look at the yellow bar in the first group of bars and the red bar, we can see that about 2/3, if we add those two together, 2/3 would have taken more time or postponed their accreditation plan in the absence of the program. And we can see that there are some differences across occupations. For example, there are proportionally more health professionals who would have taken more time. So that's the fifth set of bars, fifth group of bars, I guess. And it seems that the loan program was particularly beneficial for those in the natural and applied sciences, because without the loan program, only about 4% of them would have completed their plan as scheduled. Now if we look at skills commensurate employment and the match between the job and the skill level, about 1/3 of respondents indicated that they already had a job that matched their skill level, education, and or experience, and that's the first green bar that you see in the first group of bars. About 1/5 indicated that their job was below their skill level, and that's the yellow bar. And then about 14% in red mentioned that they were in an unrelated occupation. And as we can see in the next few graphs here, the match is greater for nurses, while professionals in health are least likely to work in a job that matches their skills. So if we also look at their personal annual income at the beginning of the program and then 1 year later, and as we can see, there was an upward shift in the distribution of income. So that means that there are fewer respondents in the bottom categories and more in the top categories a year later. I'm really sorry. So for example, about 41% of the sample earned $25,000 or more at baseline, so compared to about 56% a year later. So as you can see, there's a higher proportion of participants who earn more 1 year later. To add to this, the personal annual income outcomes, since an increase in outcome can happen without the loan program, we also ask clients, what would have happened to your personal annual income without the loan? And about 1/3 of respondents believe that their income would have remained the same, which is the blue bar. And but on the other hand, about 30% of the respondents believed that their income would have been lower without the loan program, and that's the green bar. And this proportion reaches 45% for professionals in natural and applied sciences, but drops to 19% for health professionals, excluding nurses. And if we look at the progress of clients and their action plans, almost half of recipients are progressing with their plans as they anticipated. The process is slower for about 1/3 of them, and it was deemed impossible for a bit less than 10%. And there are variations across occupations. For example, a higher proportion of clients in applied and natural sciences and in business and finance said that they were taking much more time than planned. And some of the barriers mentioned by clients that were delaying their progress included the lack of financial support. We'll get to that in the next slide. The length of the credentialing process, so it can take many months, even years, to complete their accreditation. And that's sometimes compounded by infrequent exams in some of the professions. Another reason is that acquiring Canadian work experience is hard, but that most employers require it to start working in an occupation. Other reasons that were mentioned, other barriers, were the work-study life balance. in that work and life constraints can make it hard to dedicate time to the credentialing process. As one of our clients said, half your brain studies, but the other half worries about feeding your family. And then some of the other reasons are the discrepancy between the information available or the information that the clients get and then the reality of it, and the lack of clearly defined FCR processes. So the changing requirements and going down the wrong path can take a lot of time from clients. And then if we look at the, we asked them if the loan amount was enough to cover their, the cost of the credentialing process. And for about half of respondents, it was enough. Depending, as you can see in the first 2 points on the slide, depending on the professions, the average approved amount was higher for occupations that had a higher cost to the credentialing process and lower for those who had lower cost. And clients use this loan to cover expenses such as tuition, living expenses, and examination fees. So as I just highlighted, in the result that I presented, the FCR pilot project is associated with important benefits: increased income, finding skills commensurate jobs, increased confidence, increased social status, better social network. And via the project, the majority of pilot sites acquired an expertise that is not and cannot be offered by traditional financial institutions or student aid agencies. This expertise includes the practical application of the character-based lending, as mentioned by Louise, the offer of the wraparound services, and really sitting down with the clients to develop a career plan to guide them through the FCR process. However, this program cannot solve important systemic issues such as acquiring Canadian work experience, the length of the process, and obtaining job references. And as this project is set to end in March 2015, since that deadline is quickly approaching, pilot sites have started thinking about the sustainability of the program and on how they will cover the cost, the operational cost, and the monies needed to loan to the ITWs. So there are different ways that they've been thinking about as to secure more funds, either from the federal or provincial governments, their financial partner in the pilot project, or from private funds, or also changing some aspects of their loan delivery model, such as adapting the loan amortization or the grace periods to make sure that money comes back into the pot per se so that they can lend more money, restructuring the committees, reconsidering the maximum loan amount to lending less so that they can lend to more people, and partnering with other organizations for additional funds. And we just leave you here with a quote from one of the loan recipients addressing the federal government. And that's all from us. If there are any questions.
Thanks very much, Louise and Julie. We don't have any questions that have come in yet, although I'm just seeing one question has popped up on our question box. So I'm not sure, Louise and Julie, if you're familiar with the Skills Connect program. It's a program here in BC. I'm not sure if it is in any other provinces, but just a comment from a participant that this program also supports ITWs with their credential recognition. And do you know if there's any ties or any collaborations between FCR and the Skills Connect program?
I'm not sure. Is it offered by many organizations, the Skills Connect program?
I believe it is. Yeah, it's offered by a number of organizations across British Columbia.
I think the main feature of the FCR Loans Pilot Project is is giving a loan to help in the in acquiring their credentials. I'm not sure if this project also gives loans or grants or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't believe it gives microloans similar to what FCR does. Okay.
I think that would be the main difference in this project, but I'm not familiar with it, sorry.
Okay. And we have a couple of questions about eligibility requirements. So maybe this final question before we move on to Michael's presentation. Is there anything do you want to comment on about eligibility requirements for applicants?
Yeah, sure. It depends on the sites. Some they have to fill out a form. So for every site, they have to fill out an application. They have to give. They have to make a budget with the person. So the key characteristics, I would say, are that they need money for credentialing, that they have foreign credentials, and many of the pilot sites also require, those working with financial institutions require a credit check without without bankruptcy, and it's really it really all ends up being in the strength of the credentialing plan of the client. So if they have a strong plan with strong milestones, as in a clear idea as to where they want to go, and I know that pilot sites also look at the employment possibilities for that kind of occupations. And yes.
If I may add just one point, some of the sites have realized that people who are disconnected from the community, the drifters, are not sound investments, and they will look at supporting this person, but not through a loan, and that just creates, as you mentioned at some point in the report, there is a tension between the social goals of the organization to help ITWs achieve their goals of having their credentials recognized and finding employment, but also of diminishing the risk of the non-payment. So that's another criteria that is applied.
It really comes down to the character-based lending. So it's that's exactly the challenge of this program. How sites have operationalized character-based to see that the person is a good candidate for this type of loan that they will be able to repay and that they will be able to use it to get their credentialing process.
Okay, thanks very much, Louise and Julie. We just going back to that Skills Connect question, we did have a participant mention that there is some cross-referral that happens between the two programs because they're complementary here in BC. So thanks to that participant. And we had a number of questions that rolled in right in the last few minutes that unfortunately we don't quite have time to get to right at this moment. So we're going to move forward to Michael Lamb's presentation, and we're going to so pass over the mic to Michael in Richmond at S.U.C.C.E.S.S, as well as the screen, and he'll discuss the Active Career Advancement Project. So take it away, Michael.
Hi, thank you very much. Okay, if you allow me to maybe just start with our agency who's now delivering the ACAP, the Active Career Advancement Project. S.U.C.C.E.S.S is the nonprofit agency established in 1973 and incorporated in 1974. We are one of the largest social service agency in Vancouver, in BC, and we accredited by COA, which is an international accreditation body, since 2004. Our annual budget is about $22 million. So our offices are all over the BC province. For St. John, which is the northern part, we have 2 overseas offices delivering pre-lending services, mainly in Taipei and Seoul. We have over 330 multilingual staff. Our service approach is, as you see in this chart, is the client is always our center focused, and around it we have different areas of services to support each individual client. So in other words, we are adopting a client-centered and holistic approach. So because when I present the model ACAP, you probably will visualize this model will pop up again in that kind of model. Now, ACAP actually, if you allow me to again go back to a little history, when we had have the Foreign Credential Loan Project in 2013, around like January, we were giving additional money to pilot a few small initiatives along with the loan project. One of the area was the focus group. This focus group was actually the reason why we started the ACAP concept. the ACAP project. So because in this focus group, we find out very clearly among the clients that walk through our door for the foreign credential loan project, there are a certain percentage of clients that decide by themselves not to pursue the foreign credential licensing process for different reasons, financial reasons, age reasons, or education reasons, or language reasons. And of course, every individual has their own unique, situation not to pursue the licensing process. So, in this particular group, we all of them are kind of stuck. I can't find a better word than that with survival jobs. So we want to do something for this particular group. We don't want them to get stuck all the way through till they retire on this particular what we call the survival jobs. So that's why we bring up the idea of this ACAP concept, the Active Career Advancement Project, to help this particular group not pursuing foreign credential licensing to remap out or reposition their career path. So the idea was met with...
Sorry to interrupt, Michael. I'm just going to ask you to expand your slides so that they'll go on full screen mode.
Okay.
Thanks. So if you go to slideshow and then... Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So when we presented the concept to the federal government, ESDC, it was met with a lot of echoes there. So we worked together to brainstorm this idea further and came into a proposal and then into a project, a pilot project. So the announcement was made officially by Jason Kenney and together with another minister, Alice Wong. So, oops. Primarily the concept of the project, as I mentioned earlier, is to help underutilized or marginalized immigrants to look for alternative career, reposition themselves in the career path. At the same time, when we look at the labor market, demand and supply, we don't want to miss out the employers. So that's why under this project, on one hand, we have to work with the supply side, the underutilized, marginalized immigrants, and on the other hand, we also work with demand side, the employers. So when we work with the employers, we try to focus in three particular areas with them: the hiring process, the development process, and the retaining process. So hiring means that we try to open them and connect them with the community, immigrant community. Develop means training, what kind of training they could provide with immigrants who are already in the structure working at entry-level jobs. Retaining is about how they could retain the immigrants and grow them and give them further opportunity in the company structure to move up. Oops. Sorry, I messed up with the PowerPoint slide now. I need to go back a bit. Excuse me. Okay. In terms of phases, the project was officially started March 2014, which is about 9 months ago. And we have 2 phases to complete in this 3-year pilot project. First of all is the 9 months phase 1. This particular phase is very important for us because this is the model development phase. Both models, one for working with the immigrants, the other one is working with the employers. So once we develop the draft model in this phase, we actually conducted a number of focus groups and online survey to solicit all feedbacks to the draft model. And actually, we are now in the process of finalizing all those, collecting all those findings and put them into a concrete, refinement to our model. So, so that's why December, even though it's a seasonal month for holiday, but still we are working very hard to finish off our finalized model. In January 2015, that's another important milestone commencement day for us, is to deliver the service directly to employers and immigrants. Because we have the model finalized in December, and then in January we're going to deliver services directly to the two target groups that I mentioned earlier. For the proposed service framework for the underutilized immigrants, we follow through a few key conceptual ideas. We want to follow awareness, understanding, and application, these three kind of process. We want to help the immigrants to be aware of the situation and put back to them the kind of hope, because we understand, because I know that a lot of attendants now are practitioners in our sector. You probably know that people with a lot of skills, education background, and working in those survival jobs, they will lose their identity for some time. Identity, confidence, self-esteem, so on and so forth. And we want to, in this particular stage, to give them back hope, so that they still see the light ahead of them and be ready to reposition themselves in the career journey. Understanding, which is the next step, is to understand what resources is available. Again, it's about accessibility to information, of resources, what's available out there to help them reposition themselves. And then finally, of course, if they have the the action plan in place, then they have to take concrete action to take control over their future. So this is something that they need to be proactively supported to take action to shape up their future. For employers, as I mentioned earlier, there are three different steps: the hire, development, and retain. I'm not going to repeat that, but those are the three steps that we will be focusing with every individual employer. This pilot is a national pilot. When we start the direct service to clients, immigrants, and employers, we will be having two sites. One in Vancouver, where our agency is based, and the other one is the Greater Toronto area. So we're going to have two pilot sites. Now I want to talk about a little bit, because of the time I skipped one or two slides now. I want to talk about the hope concept. We actually have Dr. Norm Emerson as our advisor to when we developed this model. And he introduced this hope concept to us. And it will be a very useful and powerful tool to help our clients to get started in this process. We help the client to look at different areas like the self-reflection, self-clarity, vision, and so on and so forth. And also we take into consideration the environment, the outside world, and how help the client to gain back hope, which is the energy, the energy foundation for them to move on. So we see this is a very critical part. So all our operational staff that are going to work with the client, they will go through the training by Norm, and to make sure we'll be able to empower client with the hope they need, the energy they need. Now, talking about the eligibility of this particular pilot, we are not duplicating any service at all in our province nor in Toronto. So that's why our eligibility are slightly different from the normal employment service programs. Immigrant who is either permanent residents or citizens 5 years or more in Canada, employee in marginalized employment, we define that as a job that that is underused their skills, education, and expertise. That's the definition we use. The English level has to be at least at CLB, Canadian Language Benchmark, level 5. And then not pursuing credential accreditation process. I mean, that's a very crucial one, as I mentioned earlier. Because we see a large proportion of people or ITPs, international trained professionals, not pursuing accreditation. So this is our particular target group. And seeking to move into alternate career relevant to their trained field. Having said that, alternate career, but still would like to somewhat relate it to that field, they were originally trained. Now, this is the draft model at this stage for the underutilized immigrants, and we will be getting different referrals, I'm sure, from our walking employer, our partners in the community. And then once the client walks through the intake process, we will be helping them with different interventions, like group interventions as well as individual intervention. Group being a group-based training, we will be heavily using the HOPE inventory to help them reestablish that kind of interest in shaping up their own future career. And then we will be working with them individually. This is also very important. Individual work is very critical to help each individual client to shape up their repositioned career path. And then, of course, we'll help the client explore resources either within the program or beyond the program to achieve the goals as set out in the plan. And then we'll be follow up with the client very intensively and see whether they are moving on with the preset career plan. Just a very quick 1 or 2 minute summary of the model, because it's still not yet finalized. We're still waiting for the findings to come back to us, and then we'll fine tune the model. The other one is the employers. I think the employee community, we always say, is a very important community, and a lot of programs, employment programs nowadays, have to work with employers. And this model, I would say the difference is we'll particularly work with the employers in more depth in those 3 particular areas: hire, train, and then retain. As I said, the program nowadays are mostly touch on hiring, like connecting employees with employees like immigrants, but not so much into the other 2 aspects, like training and then retaining. So this project will go a little further to help with the other 2 aspects that employers are very concerned about, actually, because we did a few employees focus group, and they told us that's the areas that they also need support to from the service providers. So again, this is the model for employers. We also follow through the like a case management concept. We work with every individual employer intensively to develop that kind of plan, focusing on those 3 areas, and then work. We treat us as an ambassador, and work with the employers together to achieve a win-win situation here. So, and that's about the model. And as I said, we are now in a process of collecting data and findings, and from the focus group and survey, and we will have the model finalized pretty soon before the holiday this month, and ready to launch the service in January 2015. That's all about my presentation. I'm open to questions.
All right, thank you, Michael. This is Sean Daraff. I'm the research coordinator at the center here. We've actually have quite a number of questions, and I think we will not have time to address them all, but we'll send you a link where we can continue that conversation online.
Great.
But for now, Michael, I'll just ask you this quick question, and this actually relates to Louise and Julie's presentation as well about minimum length of time in Canada. So for Michael, for ACAP, do participants have to be in Canada for more than 5 years? And then once Michael's done, Louise and Julie, can you tell us what is the length of time in Canada required for the FCR project?
I believe it's less than 10 years. I'd have to go back in terms of the selection criteria.
It's pilot site dependent. It varies across sites, but I don't think, for most sites, I don't think there is a limit on the number of years people need to have been in Canada.
But they do recognize that the longer you are in Canada, the more rusty your skills are, whatever your profession was before, and the less likely you're going to go and continue on doing your pursue the credentialing pursue trying to get your credentials recognized in the field of study, the field of in your field before you came to Canada.
Okay, and thanks. And Michael?
Yes, well, for our criteria for the ACAP, the client has to be in Canada for 5 years or more. And because we do see this particular group having been here for 5 years and still not able to, of course, not pursuing license staying and also got stuck with the survival job. I think this is a more severely disadvantaged group. So that's why we target this particular kind of eligibility for this community.
Okay, thank you. Louise and Julie, this question's for you. What are the reasons for frustrations for participants when they arrive in Canada? And the follow-up is, are their expectations realistic?
That's a good point. That's one of the things we explored in the focus groups. It all links back to the information they were given either before coming to Canada or by peers or by the information they found online. Or, but some of them, their expectations are realistic, but with everything that comes into play, it ends up taking more time often. That's what happens. And people get frustrated. They can't get, so when they come to Canada, people are frustrated because they can't work in their field. They can't work in any field. They can't get a loan, and they're struggling.
If I just looked it up in the report about those eligibility criteria to participate in the FCR Loans Pilot Project. They need to be Canadian citizens or permanent residents and have lived in Canada for less than 10 years and are experiencing difficulties in accessing traditional lending sources.
Okay, thank you. And we just have time for one more question. Michael, can you expand on the type of short-term training that will be made available under ACAP?
Okay, in terms of short-term training, we will be providing with individuals because right now it really depends on the individual need. You know, if it's language or particular vocational skills training, then we will provide those based on individual need. But there are still some generic training that we will go through. Those are like soft skills that we will definitely go through the group training. But in addition to that, the short-term training will be very much focused on individual need and also employer needs.
Okay, thanks, Michael. It's Greg here again at the center. So that wraps up the questions, the Q&A portion for today. And we just want to thank Louise, Julie, and Michael again for the presentations. And of course, thanks to all of you out there for attending. The session was recorded, and we will post the video of the presentation on our website and send you all the link in an email within about a week. So as always, we welcome your input and feedback, and we would also appreciate any suggestions you have for future webinar topics. When you leave the webinar, you will be asked to complete a short survey. We'd appreciate it if you would take a minute or two to share your thoughts, as your feedback will help us immensely in planning future events. So that ends our event for today. We are in the process of organizing webinars for the new year, so please keep an eye on the center's website, cfeebc.org. And before we sign off, we do want to take the opportunity to wish you a very happy holiday. From all of us here at the BC Centre for Employment Excellence, we wish you a healthy and prosperous 2015, and have a great afternoon.